Match press conference. I've got the HL Stormers head coach John Dobson. What we'll do, guys, we'll just start with the journals that we've got here, and then we'll cross over to team virtual. So I'll kick it off here with about 4 to 5 questions, and we'll switch over to virtual, if that's okay. All right, can we kick it off here?
For that first half, do you owe a lot of that to the changes you've had to make? Because it seemed a while before the guys went into their rhythm.
Yeah, look, I think I haven't thought about it earlier, but I would agree with you. We looked absolutely disjointed. So maybe it was that. So giving away 11 penalties and a half, you lose territory, you lose field. I mean, our discipline went absolutely awful, and our line-out, but that stayed throughout the game. That it was poor. I think we gave up 5 or 6 in the game, but no, we looked very disjointed.
You must have been encouraged by that early time, because the Stormers always find a way of scoring this way easily at times at this point.
I completely agree with you. I think we should have. I thought one of our faults today, and a long list of faults, was we got sucked into that distance kicking. Where sometimes there was just one chaser, for example, like Edwell. All we need to do was make a pass to sort of play that Stormers rugby, because that's our plan, to counter. And I felt we didn't do that. We were poor at that today, but we do have the ability to score, as you say, score so-called easy tries from anywhere. I actually think we butchered 1 or 2, like Angelo's pass. There was another one that I can't remember who it was, JJ, in the corner here, when that pass to pick from Sasha. So, yeah.
But in the end, that ends well. I mean, but what also should have been encouraging is that not only there was an impact on the bench, but some of your Springboks also took charge. Evan took charge. Yeah. Sasha, Marnie, that must have helped.
Yeah, look, I think Allswell's probably a very good summation for us in that game. A lot of that process was poor. Defensively, probably our worst performance, I felt. Like in giving yards, getting trapped in the tackles, not rolling away. I think I'll get back to that now. But I think what really, I don't know if you remember, in 2018 we played a Carrick Cup final, and the Springbok team was leaving that night, and there's a whole lot of new Springbok: Sergio, Notche, Schickerling, Ruan Nel. And I remember some of the Notche half. No, actually, let me stop that, but the guys want to play, in their heads, and which I understand. If you're making a Springbok, of course. So I think for somebody like Marnie Libok to produce a performance like that, knowing, the worst thing for him to get injured today. That's the worst. I mean, it's just human nature. And to produce a performance, they are very pleased with that. And I think the bench here, we did them earlier than we usually do. Maybe it's not, people say it's tactical genius. I can tell you it was just that we were worried. We just had to make changes. No other reason. We just felt we didn't have the energy we needed, and those guys brought massive energy.
And despite the disjointed performance, you had a tricky tour overseas. You come off a loss against Cardiff, and then a bit of a mess of the build-up in the week. The guys being at camp, and then travelling here. So to come away from Ellis Park with 5 points must be very pleasing in the end.
Very, 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 very pleasing. As I said, the outcome process poor, but there are some mitigating factors. But what I'd say, the Lions deserve a lot of credit. I mean, they're unshaded. It's easy at Cape Town last year, but they put us a lot of pressure. I'm sure I'm really here. I was tearing my hair on a couple of our decisions, not to the laugh, to go for the. Yeah, we were going for the corner, and not even in the first half. And I think they've gone a couple of penalties that could have got away from them, because if they keep this side together, it's going to be a very good rugby side. So for us to get 5, I think Ellis Park's will be a very tough place to play this year. I mean, I think if Andrews had kicked that ball out against us, they could have won it. So I think, for us to get 5 points here is a massive achievement for us.
But just not necessarily the performance itself, but the result and the impact of the bench. Does that also bode well for the European campaign, actually? Because there's been a lot of people that are questioning the depth, and your sustainability, of challenging on 2 fronts. But I mean, given that almost want to say the dirt trackers, or the French guys came up and really performed, must be encouraging for you that you guys can actually mix and match quite well, on 2 fronts.
In the whole off-season, I was stressing about exactly that. And very well. Then something just changed in the off-season, where there was guys training well, or 1 or 2 guys coming in. It's probably the least of my worries. We're going to have massive selection headaches. Like 2 great locks in Cape Town, in Connor Evans and Gary Porter. I'm lucky not to play. Then Samoa Marat and it's just, we actually got so much competition for places. Ron Nell's back in a couple of weeks. Alapati's with Samoa. There's another wing that's came. I've gone blank in my mind, but it's actually, that's one thing I'm not worried about now. I'm more worried about our performance, like the line-outs and the discipline. But it was my base stress. I think it's actually we're in a good place.
Happy? Alright guys, virtual will go with Ben, Leighton and then Jan.
Hi, good evening. Firstly, well done on the victory. You guys showed a great fight back in the second half, especially after one of the really tough first half in terms of the set pieces and lineouts. You struggled a little bit with the scrums. But you guys really showed a lot of fight on the sprint second half. And just your timing of the substitutions was excellent. I thought that every single player that came on contributed in some way. You must really be chuffed with the victory tonight and the result.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the outcome. I thought, you know, to win at Ellis Park, no matter which team is winning, whether it's the All Blacks beating the Springboks earlier this year or one of our, you know, you need to have energy and guys are prepared to run, and you know that's what the bench was about. But I think they really, I do think they made a huge difference there. But you know, as I say, I can't remember. I don't know what the final penalty count was. It must have been close to 20, which is off the charts. And you know, I think you're losing 5 lineouts. You know, so I'd like us to see a lot better in terms of, you know, people praise our character, which we've got, but I'd like to see us much better in terms of performance.
Yeah, then just focus on one area of defence. That seems to be a problem. Do you need to fix that in the next 4 weeks?
Yeah, look, I don't think we defended well. I think we gave away too many defensive penalties, but I think conceding 1 try at Ellis Park was it 2? Was it 1? One try at Ellis Park. I think we have to go and scratch through a few books to see that. So, in terms of the outcome, good, but I would agree with you, we weren't good defensively in terms of our process. You know, like that line break for one of the Smiths in the first half and that sort of thing. But we'll get better at the break.
Okay, Leighton.
How's it, Dobbo?
Hi, Leighton.
Congrats, eh? Dobbo, does Nama's cameo make it more difficult for you now to leave him out? I mean, he's been performing when he started, when he's come off the bench. I mean, that crucial turnover on the try line, that's probably what saved you the game.
Yeah, look, he was. That's what you have to understand. Leighton, he was very good in Cardiff last week. He got those turnovers, you know, similar sort of turnovers. He was outstanding in Cardiff. I thought he was absolutely superb. But we had a plan for Ellis Park, and that was to have guys who could really cover ground in the last half an hour. And so I said, my conversation with Nama in the week was quite easily. Outstanding performance, you're not dropped. You've just got a different role to do. I don't want to sound like Eddie Jones or Trendy, but it was a different role he had to do when somebody was going to be chasing the game. We wanted somebody to cover the ground. And that was the likes of BJ Dixon, JJ Kutz, Nama, Sazi Sunday's a very mobile tight end. So that was the plan, and he bought into the plan. You know, I think in different conditions and circumstances it might be different, he might be starting, but I'm really happy with where he is.
And just lastly,
Leighton?
sorry about the
Always.
Just in terms of this break, a welcome 5 points could have been a break where you got into sort of a negative mind space and then come back for a URC game and on top of that, the next week, your first game in the Heineken Cup.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was crossing my mind, especially when we were 22-10 down, because you know then we would have been, you know, this massive hype about the beaten record. We would have been 3 games without a win. So it was important for that. It was important. I wasn't so worried about the points. You know, what we need, what we know what we need to get into URC playoffs. So I wasn't so worried about the points, but I was worried about the mindset and the whole aura around the team. So going into this break with the 5, we've got 24 from 6 games, which is as if we'd won every game without scoring a bonus point. You know, so I can't really cop. We had a goal of 20 on 21 points for this period. Got 24, and we go into the break with feeling slightly better about myself. But as I say, we're really careful about being too self-congratulatory given the obvious errors that were out there today.
Right, can we finish off with Jan, please, so we can wrap it up? Jan?
Thank you. John, it was in many ways a game of contradictions. I mean, you've got a guy like Huka who's an obvious issue in the Springbok team. They're struggling against it. You've got a guy like Mama who is not in the team or not even in the SA team and performing like that. How is a coach with you then to keep it one guy up and still handle the other guy and look on the other guy that's got obvious workouts?
Yeah, look, I mean, the national thing I really can't, I don't know anything, I can't comment on, but I tell you what was it was probably, look, there are obvious work-ons. I mean, I'm not going to wish those away, but to have 14 guys going to Europe for us was a massively good feeling amongst everybody at the union, amongst the squad. We're sitting coming up to Joburg yesterday, captain's practice, and more than half the guys are going to Europe in the new year. So the feeling was running really real feel good. I'd imagine there are a couple of but Nama, maybe if this week game was this time last week or 2 weeks ago, he could have got himself onto an aeroplane. But his time will come, I've got absolutely no doubt whatsoever. But the overall feeling is they're just pleased for each other. That's part of rugby and team sport. But I do agree with you. There are some work-ons, not just limited to one player. There are a couple.
All right, thanks, John. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks very much. Yeah.